changed from glory into glory. Great line in a hymn, but what does it mean? Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Thursday, April 7th, 2022. The wonderful Charles Wesley hymn, Love Divine, All Loves Excelling, contains this curious line, changed from glory into glory. I've sung it about 1,000 times, but never thought much about it. But if you stop and think about it, it's really a strange line. If we already have the glory, why do we need to change? Today's reading from 2 Corinthians gives the answer. But first, a little background. The word glory has an important history in its use in the Bible. Ask the average person on the street what it means, and they'll tell you it means something like honor, some kind of praise we give to someone for achieving something great. But in the Old Testament, it is all that plus a little more. When it is applied to God, it sometimes refers to the literal physical manifestation of God's presence and God's majesty. The biblical passages where we see this sense of the word most clearly are in Exodus, where, for example, God's glory appears in the cloud that follows the Israelites, and in the presence of God on Mount Sinai, where God's presence was covered by a cloud and appeared like a devouring fire on the mountain. That's God's glory. This is what Paul has in mind when he contrasts the law as given to Moses and the gospel given in Jesus Christ. You'll recall that story about when Moses went up on the mountain to receive the law. He saw God's glory face to face. Then when he came down the mountain, his own face shone as if lit up. His face reflected the glory of God that he had seen on Mount Sinai, and people had him put a veil on his face. That's the background of today's reading from 2 Corinthians. Paul says, "Now, if the ministry of death, chiseled in letters on stone tablets, came in glory so that the people of Israel could not gaze at Moses' face because of the glory of his face, a glory now set aside, how much more will the ministry of Scripture come in glory? For if there was glory in the ministry of condemnation, much more does the ministry of justification abound in glory. Indeed, what once had glory has lost its glory because of the greater glory. For if what was set aside came through glory, much more has the permanent come in glory." At first, this sounds a little harsh. Paul talks here about the law being the ministry of death. But as we know from other places in Paul's letters, he's not opposed to the law. It's just that the law on its own cannot save us. Hence, it represents the ministry of death. But it is still God's gift given through Moses, and the people, when they beheld Moses, also beheld a reflection of the glory of God. But the glory which the law represented is not the highest glory. For that, we turn to Jesus Christ, who is the real presence of God with us. He is the glory of God. And because, like Moses, we have beheld him face to face, that glory shines in our faces. So Paul can say, "And all of us with unveiled faces, seeing the glory of the Lord as though reflected in a mirror, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, the Spirit." Paul's point is relatively straightforward here. In the law of Moses and in the face of Moses, we have beheld a reflection of God's glory, but only a reflection. Now, in Jesus Christ, we see God's glory face to face. And because of that, we now reflect that glory, just as Moses reflected the glory of God. Paul can say that we can go from one degree of glory to another, therefore. Or, in the beautiful lyrics of Paul Wesley, we have changed from glory into glory. It's a wonderful mental image and one worth pondering. Think of it this way. Each morning when you look in the mirror, you're not just looking at some tired old face. You're also seeing the glory of God reflected in you. Sort of makes you reconsider, doesn't it? Tomorrow, Paul coins one of his most memorable phrases, one which most everyone knows, but most don't know comes from the Bible. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.